Are we good?
I mean, we're
rolling.
We're
live.
rolling.
Let's do that.
From Indianapolis, Indiana, this is Truth It.
Can I tell you, when I was in Mexico, I'm not a big drinker,
Okay.
but
Average size, I would say.
yeah. Every day though, never.
Yep.
Every day down there, I'm worried about myself. As
Yeah,
I'm
you're
retired.
now addicted
Yeah.
again.
It's like, it's lovely, right? You have a little cocktail after a round of golf. You go to dinner, you have a cocktail. You come back from dinner, you have a cocktail, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And this was an all-inclusive resort type of place?
No, it was a condo that was, it's hard to describe. There's timeshares, and then there are condos.
I mean, I know what buildings look like.
Well, I know
but
you do. I know,
but they
it's a
didn't
community.
provide.
It's a community
They
with
didn't. It wasn't a resort where there's
no,
all,
no.
the,
but we
all
were
the amenities are
in
built
the
in.
resort area, so you could go do that.
But you had
So
to pay extra.
Yeah, so I had like this.
You don't know what
bracelet that got me
all-inclusive is, do you?
I do.
It was awesome
Because I just came back from one as well.
Oh, first
See,
of all,
there you go.
congrats.
There you go.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And very much can relate to the I don't drink regularly on occasion, but down there, I was like, it's 9 o'clock in the morning and a whiskey sour sounds perfect with my breakfast.
I mean, I
does
forgot
sound
how
good.
good a pina colada was at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
It's
And
like
you
an
just
adult milkshake.
you don't realize by the end of the day, I've consumed 12 of these.
And I did
and
not do that. For the record, Lori, if you're listening, I didn't do that.
You
But I
did-
could.
He didn't
I
get
could
past
easily.
8. Alex, when you consume alcohol, what is your alcohol of choice besides whiskey sours?
Yeah.
Or maybe that is your go-to.
If I'm casual with friends, bourbon is like the go-to. I've hit that age where and I'm not that old, but I've hit that age where beer just I can't do it. I feel terrible.
Yeah, you
So
feel
bloated.
full. Yeah.
So bourbon all year, not seasonality.
No,
like
not
bourbon in the fall
seasonality.
and winter.
And I'm not I will drink if you put bourbon in front of me. I will drink it, and you can tell me all the wonderful
could.
things about it, and
Sure.
I believe you, and I can taste some of those, but I don't have a wild collection or
Right.
an affinity to a particular type of bourbon.
So humble too. I love the humility with this description.
But in
I
Mexico,
don't have a discerning palate. Just give me bourbon.
in Mexico, right? Tequila sounds great. A whiskey sour sounds great.
It did.
Usually
It does.
when we've done all inclusives, that is the time where I'm going to try a drink because if I don't like it, I'll just get another one.
Right.
But the whiskey sour, a nice margarita, something like that, tequila soda would be kind of what I would rotate through.
Tequila soda is rather refreshing.
It
I
really
discovered that a
is.
couple summers ago.
It
It's
really
like a
is.
great summer cocktail.
And tequila is what makes my karaoke come out.
Oh boy.
So we had one real solid night.
Sounds very
karaoke?
karaoke.
And it was one solid night of karaoke, and it was great.
As
Don't
most of
remember
our
every part of
listeners know, that Daniel's a former musician in a band, current musician. Did I say that correct? I think that's right.
That
were
was a complicated way of saying
Yeah,
it.
the complicated way of saying you were once in a band, but you still play guitar and drums.
Yeah, I kind of think that once you're a musician, you're always
a musician?
Unless you lose the skill entirely,
And you haven't.
which doesn't usually happen.
Right. So I'm curious, karaoke man.
Yeah.
What's your song of choice?
Oh, I started with "Man I Need" by Olivia Dean, which
Yeah.
is a sensation right now. Love it.
right.
But the encore was "Bohemian Rhapsody,"
Oh my God.
and we just went
Could you
hard.
pick a more difficult song?
Oh, absolutely not. But that was the goal. I was like, if I'm going to perform for these people who I might not ever see again, I did end up seeing most of them the next day because
Because they were at the same
they were at the same
all-inclusive.
resort and they were loving what I
did they
apparently
remember
delivered the
you?
night before.
Did they remember you?
Oh, they absolutely remembered
Did they
me.
come up to you and go, "Holy shit"?
Yep.
You did "Man I Need." That's the thing I can't get over right now.
I was I just felt confident in that moment.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah, I went
Talk
for
to
it.
me. That whole one,
Oh,
brand
the
new
whole
song.
bit, everything.
Oh, man.
It is. That will be the only song that's on my Spotify.
Did you do the
Wrapped this year,
dancing?
I'm sure.
Did you do the dancing?
I did dancing. I don't know if I did the dancing. But I
Did you do
Right.
I
while
did dancing
while you were singing?
Loud and clear.
while I was singing? I was on the stage, off the stage, front
Mic
of the
in
room,
hand,
back of
or
the
were
room.
you
Oh, mic in hand,
not on a?
running around.
And it wasn't, your hand wasn't shaking even for a moment with that mic.
Oh, no.
That's the thing, that if you are the least bit nervous, you got that, even
Yep.
if you can't feel the nervousness, you
Yeah.
hold up that mic and then you see your hand shaking.
Yes.
It's like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
this is what it looks like to be nervous.
No. And there were people there that night who wanted to be discovered as artists in this little karaoke bar at
you
an all-inclusive
serious?
resort.
Great
in Mexico.
opportunities there, I hear.
And talent agents everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was there like, I don't care what happens right now. I'm just here to have a good time and make some people laugh.
So a talent agent approached you later
Yes,
that evening
absolutely.
and said, Alex.
And
Please never come back. No, we did go back to the karaoke bar a couple nights after, and the waiter who had been serving us like lost his mind when I walked in and was so pumped that we were back.
That's
I was much more tame that night.
So where were you?
We were in Cancun with some friends. Moon Palace. They have a membership, and
Nice.
it's great.
Wow.
We had a wonderful little getaway.
When did you get back?
That was the beginning of January. So
Okay, so
we've
you
been
were here
back
for the
we were here for
snowstorm.
the snow. We
congrats.
thanks.
Yeah,
Dug
I
my
heard it was
driveway out by
lovely.
hand because
Heard
I
it
had a
was
flight
lovely.
on Monday morning, so I had to get out.
Ooh.
And
How was that?
which part? The flight?
Monday, yeah.
It actually went better than I expected.
Really?
I flew to Denver. Was supposed to have a direct flight that got canceled, and I got rescheduled on a connecting flight through Chicago and only got in an hour late.
Well,
So I was
Not
super
bad.
surprised.
Nice.
But yeah, and I knew the night before that it had been canceled and was able to rebook pretty quick. So like they took care of it and it was easy. But
so is it a meeting you had to make, or could you have begged out?
I could have rescheduled it, but we'd already rescheduled it a couple times.
got it.
And it was just a quick. I flew
Yeah.
in Monday. I drove up to Estes Park, and then
This was
flew
business
home.
travel.
Yeah,
That's
Estes
awesome.
Park
I
is
like
a nice
that.
little
it
drive.
was.
Business travel.
Estes
I
Park's
like-
great.
I like us.
We
You
love
sound
it.
important. So you have the simplicity. I like the simplicity of your sweatshirt that you're wearing right now.
Thank you.
And
I don't know if I'm in agreement with that. But
well,
come on.
listen,
Listen, it's what I do. I just don't know.
I want to know a little bit more about Creator Studio. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, I've hired you before,
Yes.
so I know the baseline. But tell us a little bit about your gig.
Yeah.
Wait, is that what you do?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. Yeah. We got to meet in the hallway. It was great.
It's I feel like I
I know
already
all
know
about
you.
you.
Exactly. I feel
Right,
like I know
long-time
you too.
listener, first-time caller.
Exactly.
So yeah, Creator Studio is a brand design studio that I started 2-ish years ago. And we really work with visionary founders to build brands. And that can mean a ton of things, right? Everyone has a different definition of what brand and branding is. I know you guys have even talked about that before. And so we really work with founders or leaders in an organization who have high influence to help them build the belief that they have for what they do, right? Like for us, everything starts on that foundation of if you don't believe in why you're doing what you're doing, it's never going to be successful. It doesn't matter how good your marketing is. It doesn't matter how slick your website is. Like none of that matters. So we really try to work with clients to help them build belief. For us, that starts with language. Language matters a ton to us. How do we craft a language that can give you an ecosystem and a culture that you can build a company on?
Yeah.
And so we work with them to build all of that. And then we move into visual identity system. How does this play out in marketing, in collateral,
Yeah.
things like websites, activation, all of that.
So what's all this stuff about people not using vowels in their company names now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
it's
Daniel,
the
what's
easy
that all
way,
about?
right? It's the easy way to get a domain that you're after,
Okay.
and it
Okay.
saves you
You
money.
caught me.
So, no,
I've got a lot of vowels in my name. I don't know how I'd get away with that.
Yeah,
Saves you money on ink when you're
Yep.
printing
When
stuff.
you're printing,
well, there you
right?
go.
Stitching out on a sweatshirt.
Well, Michael charges per letter, so you would get.
Golly.
It's our new business
I don't know
model
what-
this
I
year.
like that. But for us, it was actually intentional, right? Like it is a fad, but we love to talk about how like we bring pieces to the puzzle, and so do our partners, and we want to kind of fill those pieces.
And
in.
if somebody could just bring the E and the
Yeah.
A, that would be really
yes, that would be
helpful.
really good because we're bad at vowels,
Clearly.
clearly.
How long have you guys been doing this?
So we officially, as an LLC, as a
Yeah,
company, since
yeah.
June of 2024.
And did you have a client when you started
I
this? or-
did, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So I went through like a crazy job loss situation in January of 2024, lost my job.
Are you allowed to say where that was?
Yeah, I was working at Traders Point Christian Church, and lost my job unexpectedly. Was super surprised by that. Like, didn't have that on
I remember when this went down.
the 2024 bingo card, and
I remember this now.
started like I had already had freelance, and I had actually had a couple of clients, so was working on some side projects anyways. Was able to like elevate those pretty quick.
Go back to Trader's Point. What
yeah.
were you doing for them?
Yeah, I was the marketing and communications director.
That's
there.
what I thought. I
So-
remember when this went down.
You do?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Because I was going to the downtown church.
Yeah.
And I remember I asked
You remember when they fired Alex Holt?
Yeah, because another individual in security got fired at the same time. You know who I'm talking about?
yes. Yeah.
He
Because
forgot all
of-
about that.
Yeah.
Because of
He was
not
over it
because,
until you
not
brought
because of
that
a
up.
job issue, but because of a different issue,
Yeah.
an out of wedlock
Yeah.
issue.
Hmm.
And
No names mentioned.
I can't.
Wow.
And Alex is like, oh shit.
No, I remember that situation. Yeah.
I asked a lot of questions about that church.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
It's, not bad. I just asked a lot
Absolutely.
of questions, so I was
I mean,
interested.
so did you attend a certain location? Because I know they have the huge location
Yeah.
up north.
Yeah, I officed out of the Northwest location up
Yep.
in Whitestown, and that's regularly where we attended.
Yeah.
But my family lived closest to both the downtown and the midtown campuses, and in my role, I was kind of everywhere on a given weekend.
Yep.
So
Wherever
they would just
Aaron
show up
needed you.
wherever I was needed.
Yeah.
My family would just kind of show up, but Northwest was our.
All right, I have questions.
Did you do some of those stage talks where you kind of make the announcements or something? Because you look like you'd be cool enough for
I
that.
never got tapped for that, but I was the guy that
sorry,
wrote
man.
all of that language.
You did.
And then I would watch people deliver it and just kind of like melt into my seat.
Because it was like, that's not
You're like,
the inflection I was looking
yes.
for.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, Aaron's pretty good with his inflections, so he didn't know. I don't think he needed a lot of work. with
No,
that.
I didn't write for Aaron. I
No.
really wrote for our hosts
Got it,
or
got it.
people that came up and did the announcement.
Yeah, the tweeners, the people
the
that are like
tweeners, yeah.
transitioning to different.
So you didn't
phases
dress
of it.
Aaron?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was just curious.
No.
How long were you there?
I was on staff for 5 years.
Wow.
So I started in production. Live production was my background.
Yeah.
And then moved over and led marketing and communications and kind of rebuilt that team.
And you know what they say, when you get let go from working as an employee at a church, you can't go there anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Is that
So-
right?
No, I don't say that, but my exit was pretty clear that like
They didn't
for
want
the
you.
health of our family, it was not healthy for us to go there.
So how
Yeah.
can that be a Christian-like attitude? See, this is my problem with the
Well, there's
Christian
complicated
church.
things that happen
Yeah,
in the Christian environment as well.
Well, I
Yeah.
know. I realize, as you and I have discussed
Yeah,
in great detail.
I think that
But
the
that
simple
kinds of-
thing
go ahead.
is that people are people, right? Like people are messy and broken wherever they're at.
Yeah,
It
for
doesn't
sure.
matter if they're in the marketplace, if they're in the church, and people make bad decisions. People make bad
of us.
leadership decisions all the time. Like we all have. And when I started in ministry, I've been in and out of the nonprofit space for a long time, mission driven like work. I had this idea that like I'm never going to get hurt by someone working in one of these organizations because we're all like empowered by the mission and it's
Yep.
going to be so great.
Led by Christ.
And I was hurt in all of those environments.
Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, it really is. And there are people in those spaces who have done like deep work to care for me or to like try to restore a broken relationship. And there are others that haven't. And that's on them. And I had my experience. And that doesn't mean that that's everyone's experience there. But I think I was able to resolve it by like, people are people. And sometimes people just make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And I have lived a much healthier life in the last 2 years.
Good for you.
Than even when I was on staff.
That's awesome.
At the best point there.
I'd just like to clarify, Daniel and I don't make bad decisions, but other people do
Right,
for sure.
correct.
Right.
Correct.
Thanks, Michael. So
You're welcome.
all right. So did you ever, when you were working in that setting, did you see it as, did you have any kind of outlook as to whether that was going to be like a retirement thing for you?
Yeah, I always knew that I was going to do something on my own. My wife and I had talked about that a ton, that like we knew there was a certain level of freedom we wanted in our lives. And so we were going to figure that out at some point. We honestly had this business on the map, but in 2028, like that was where it was at. And so I knew it wasn't the retirement gig. I knew it wasn't the end goal. I had a great team and like a great ride and got to have fun doing what I did, but I knew there was always going to be something else.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'd worked in nonprofits and agencies here in Indianapolis and great experiences at all of them, but like knew that work could be better and there could be something better out there. And I wanted to be a part of building something better.
Yeah.
Like I love the building phase of something. And so that's kind of always been the dream. And then it just got accelerated really, really quickly.
Yeah. Do you feel like now that you're in this new gig of your own, do you feel satisfied with that change now? I know it's been a short amount of time.
I do. And also, I am constantly struggling with, okay, I'm building this thing, and like
Right.
building something takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And there are days that I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to freaking do this right
Yeah.
now. Like, I
Like,
don't want to
stay in
take on
bed,
this
don't get up,
project. I
right,
don't want to like get up and build this thing. Because I've poured a ton in. I've also had way more freedom. And so it's just kind of this, like, I feel like founders ebb and flow of, I love this thing and I want to give everything I have, because in a very short amount of time, it's given our family like opportunities to do things we never would have done.
Yeah. And are you thinking of flexibility, or are you thinking of some other?
I think flexibility, I think finances, I think our ability to like see and explore the world, right? There's lots of things that like owning my own business has given me the opportunity to do that in a normal 9-to-5 structure I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But it also has taken years off my life already, and I'm only 2 years in.
Yeah.
With no intention of like ending
just wait.
it.
Yeah,
Just
you've
wait.
had the best 2 years of your life, but
Right.
you're gonna give up 5.
Right.
So what's really wild about owning your own thing is that sometimes people don't make more money; they might even make less, but they're happier.
Yes.
You're in control.
But also the opposite can happen.
Yes.
Where you think that it's going to be this great thing, and it ends up being the most painful experience.
Yeah.
And you'd rather just have a fucking job.
Yes. 100%. And I would say for us, like, I've been lucky enough that like I have loved it and I have made more money, and that's awesome, and not necessarily super hard to do when you work in ministry.
Yeah,
The money component.
I've heard the rumors.
And so like it is the best ride I've ever been on, and I don't want to get off of it. But I also know that there is that reality of days that are like, yeah, I would just rather clock in and clock out somewhere and be done.
So that begs the question: what happens when you're made that offer, like a year from now, or maybe it's already happened? Maybe an existing client has said, "Hey, dude, we want you full time."
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
And I think it
Stick
would,
to it.
yeah, it would have to be the right offer, right? Like I have always said, even when I've worked at places that I thought I could work forever, I'm never going to turn down a conversation. Yeah. I'm never going to turn down exploring an opportunity. I'm never going to turn down a free lunch, coffee, drinks if you want to tell me why I should come work for you.
Yeah.
But I think now, knowing what I've been through running my own business for 2 years, which again isn't all that long, I know a lot more of what it would take for me to say yes than I did even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago would have been like, if it was a great offer, it would have been super easy for me to do that. And then I would have probably realized I'm in the same culture, the same environment, the same thing again.
Yeah.
So I get the piece that attracts you to it. You've clearly articulated that. What's the piece that makes you go, whoa, like, I don't know if I want to do this for another 2 years or 10 years or 5 years. Is there one piece?
There is. It is the like seeing things through to completion.
Yeah.
Right? Like I love our partners, I love our clients, but we run at the pace of our clients, and sometimes things slow down in a project. They get busy, we don't get response back from them, whatever. And I'm pretty quick to be like, all right, if we're not running momentum, I'm checked out. I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And then when that email resurfaces from that client and they're like, hey, we're ready to move forward. And I'm like, shit, I've moved on 10 years ago and like I'm ready for the next thing.
I have to understand what you're trying to do.
Yes.
You have to
And
relearn
so
the client. Yeah.
That is the one piece that I know that about myself. And it's part of why I hired a project manager like right away.
Yeah.
And she had worked for me before because I knew that she was the one who would help like get up, go finish the project. We got to do this. Or she could be the one who helps carry it over the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah.
How big is the team?
It is just myself. Myself and my wife co-own. She does a little bit of work with us, and then we contract out anything else we need.
Plus the project manager?
Project manager, she's on contract with us.
Oh, gotcha.
She does 10-ish hours a week, and she does more in 10 hours than I sometimes do in 40 because she's just that good. And then we'll bring in an identity designer. We'll bring in a web developer. We'll bring in a marketing specialist if we need something done, or we'll bring in another agency, right, to build or do filmmaking or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we try to keep it lean. The goal was like, I don't want to build this huge thing and have all this overhead and then it doesn't work. And then I'm like, oh shit, I have all these salaries I now have to take care of and I can't even pay my family.
Can I tell you that's not the norm? What you just said is not the norm for people that start business today. people.
to what the norm.
The norm is I want to come in big and bold, and
Yeah,
not
I think
small
that's
and
changing.
nimble. I hope so, because I think
I truly
what we're
think
talking
it
about
is.
is the right way.
I think that the economic events and other opportunities that have kind of unfolded through
Yeah.
change of technology has
Yeah.
changed that vibe over the last
I hope
2
so.
or 3 and even 10 years,
Yeah.
because it used to be exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It was all about headcount,
Yep.
growing a business with headcount. And now there are so many ways to collaborate across,
Yeah.
across the world
Yeah.
with some of the best talent.
Yep.
Especially in a line of work that's like ours,
Yeah.
creative work.
Yes.
And of course, there are other categories that kind of operate the same way. There are so many ways that you can operate small and do some of the biggest projects in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're working with a client right now who is the leading organ transportation service provider in the country.
Oh, wow.
We're a small shop. Like, we shouldn't have any business working with them, but because we are able to scale to meet their needs,
Yeah.
we can do that, and we can say yes to a client, and I know the people that I'm going to call when I need something.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when that project's done, we can scale back down because I don't have all of this overhead that I have to worry about. And I had seen that playing out in agencies across the city
Right.
as over the last 2 years, like prior to me starting this.
So this is really fascinating to me, because we had this conversation on the trip that I just came back from. One night we're talking about business, and I made the comment that we lost a client. We've lost a couple of clients over the years, not because of service. We've lost clients because they've grown and we've grown with them, but because they've gotten bigger by a multiple of 2 or maybe even 3, they feel like they need bigger. They need more of what we offer, just bigger. And my conversation with everyone has always been bigger's not better.
Yep.
The reason that you've been able to grow with us, or we've grown with you, is because of the amount of service we dedicate to you, because we're not all things to all people.
Do you ever think that they're correct, though?
I struggle with that. I don't know. The short answer is I don't know. Sometimes I think they might be correct. Other times I think they're way off base. The history has proven to us that 9 out of 10 times you come back to us because you lose that organic. I mean, we just go way over the top. All 3 of us in our industries, I guarantee, go over the top with service.
Yeah.
Because that's what we offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you go big, you lose that.
The business has to systematize things
That's
so
exactly
that they
right.
can
That's
churn
right.
and burn. Not that it's always bad,
Right.
Right.
but they have to create more systems, less service.
Yeah. I
Service
agree
is
with that.
not very scalable.
I
Yeah.
totally
It's
agree with that.
difficult,
I would say it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So that's when you said that, that you see it moving in a different direction from what I just described. I hope you're right, because I'm tired of building something for somebody with them for 7, 8, 9
you're
years.
creating the system for them. You're creating
Yes.
the
And then they
plan
just
that fits
walk
their.
away. It's like, man.
Yeah. But I do think the reality exists that people
For
still
sure.
want a big agency.
Oh,
right?
for
There
sure.
have been bids that we have lost.
Yeah.
Because people are like,
Yes.
it's just you and you work out of your house. Like,
Right.
what? We don't have an office to come to
Right.
and meet with you. Like,
We sell on that, though.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you do as well. Right?
Yeah.
It's like the flip side of that conversation is you've got me.
Right.
Right. And then ultimately someone says, well, what happens when someone else like me comes knocking on your door and they want to know, am I still going to be priority number 1? And that's where I think it gets complicated from the client's perspective, because they want to know, they want this feeling that they're being taken care of. And that's where I
Is
think
that
bigger
your phone
comes better.
buzzing?
No.
I keep getting nervous about every time I hear a phone notification because last week, about 30 minutes into
Yeah.
the
What happened?
episode, I get a notification on my personal device.
Oh.
And then one of the cameras dies.
Oh, no way.
Because
It's connected.
because
yeah,
it's,
Yeah.
one of these is my personal device.
Yeah, no, I have Do Not Disturb on. So,
Yeah, I
and
do
mine's
too.
in my pocket.
Mine's
But I
Something
feel
weird
it.
going on here, guys.
I feel
All
it.
right, hold on.
I feel fine now. That's
I'll
probably
check.
you.
I got it on
That's probably you,
silent.
Michael. But I
See
think
how quickly he
to
blames me?
stay on topic,
Yes,
which
please.
is I'm really great at.
Yeah, you're awesome.
I think
Is that your
I
phone
think
buzzing?
that companies are hiring differently too. So the
Yeah.
the larger companies that are hiring consulting type services, such as creative services or brand products like you do, Michael, they are hiring that flexibility, right? Because it protects their business as well.
I think you're right.
Which means that ultimately they're trying to lower headcount as well.
Yeah, for
both in their outsourcing and what's happening in house.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think where we're seeing the influx that we're talking about is companies that are being acquired.
Yep.
So a client we have goes out and buys a company, they buy another company, they buy another company, and someone is over there chattering, hey, we need more. Or they hire someone new to come in on the marketing side. Well, this is, we're massive. We need more.
Yep.
And like I said, time has proven that usually comes back to us because we hear, we don't get what we used to get, and we really like what we used to have.
Yeah.
And we still want that.
Daniel, with what you're doing, are you seeing companies hiring you after they have let internal teams go and bringing you in to fill that in? Or are they mostly bringing you in to supplement what they already have in-house?
So they're hiring me to build the internal team, to reform the internal team, or to avoid having an internal team.
Yeah.
So it's usually not an after-the-fact situation so far. Not that couldn't happen.
Yeah.
What I haven't seen happen is what you described, where a company says, we need to change this team by getting rid of them.
Yep.
Now let's go see if Daniel can help us.
Yep.
But in every client situation, they're trying to maximize what their internal team does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's a small or a medium-sized team, no large teams right now. But
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, we had a client that approached us wanting to work with us, but they had just removed their in-house creative brand development team. And it really made us question. It made me question, is this the kind of company that fits our ecosystem and we want to work with?
Yeah.
Because they're not satisfied with what was happening in-house. What was the culture of trying to change, adjust, shift the trajectory versus we're just going to wipe this out to save money.
Right.
We know we still need someone, but we know we can pay less if we bring a contractor in. So it's just an interesting dilemma. We ended up not getting the contract, but I was just curious if that was something that you
But would you feel uncomfortable if they gave you the contract? Would you feel uncomfortable with that still, or would you suddenly like the money?
Maybe both, right? That's the in early startup phase.
I can speak to that.
Yeah,
that's part of what I was texting you earlier this week. When we build something out for somebody that's not in our core, but we want to do it because we have the bandwidth and we can do it, I am always uncomfortable doing it because it's just a cold away from disappearing and all that money we invested into it.
Yep.
So it's got us, I feel like we're pulling a Daniel. We're going back looking at what we've done.
Smart move.
And saying, maybe we don't want to offer all that anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe because what we used to do is say, you're special. We want to find a way to help you get there. Let's go do it. But in hindsight, every time we've done that, they've moved on to bigger and better. And then they come back and say, I want that.
Yeah.
And I realize maybe that's not one of our core competencies. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that. Maybe we should be subcontracting that out, if you will.
Yeah.
For lack of a
And even
better
then, I think
description.
that it's always smart when you don't, especially for a small business. If you're an enormous ad agency or other type of business, you can say we do everything fine.
Right.
It doesn't differentiate you. What differentiates you or makes you the right choice for someone is the scale, not what the specific thing you offer.
Yeah.
But for a small consultancy, it is so much better for you to not lead with the things that you can do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lead with what you're best at.
Yeah.
If people are saying, well, we can do all these things and listing a bunch of services, it just doesn't make you stand out.
Yeah.
I'm
don't think
fine
it
with
does.
some services page where you list a few things out, but I just think that you should lead with less,
Yes.
not more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that begs the question from the client. Well, that's great, but if or can we get to this, or if we get to this, can you help me?
Yeah.
I love that because then it provokes the thought, right?
Well, it's great that they're asking, and that means you can have a conversation about
Exactly.
Right.
it. And for my clients, if they don't need strategy, they don't need me.
Yeah, probably not a good fit, right?
Right.
There are lots of tactical things that I could do. And, I've told people directly, it's just going to be too expensive to pay, a strategy guy for a tactical thing.
Yeah.
I was listening to, it was a podcast while I was gone, and it talked about the influx of AI and what's happening right now. And these are tech guys that are talking about this. And they said, how ironic is that the first thing that AI has done is eliminate the coders. And the coders are the ones that were pushing for AI for so long.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
It's here.
Yep.
And then you have to fast forward. I'm sitting in the airport in Phoenix last night, and I'm sitting right beside these two tech guys, and they're talking about how AI is going to change their industry in the next 18 months. And they're on the back end of all this tech stuff. And I just sat there and listening.
Eavesdrop is what it's called.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Quietly listening and observing, and how excited they are. And I thought to myself, I wonder if they're going to be like the coders 18 months from now going, oh, shit.
Did you catch what their industry was?
I did not.
That's too
it's
bad.
tech.
Because I was going to answer the
No,
question.
Oh, there you go. I don't know.
But I think that AI is going to or has changed and is definitely going to more deeply change every single industry.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't like mass eliminate a bunch of jobs or whatever,
Right.
but it is going to revolutionize every industry.
I think
Yes.
you're right. I also think it goes. I think it's part and parcel with what we're talking about because it's going to revolutionize. We can't continue to be on the same path we're on. So we need to get off that rail and go. Okay, maybe I just stop here and set my shop up here with the core competencies that I'm really good at. Right.
And
Go
I
ahead.
think I was just saying, I think part of it too is understanding, like, yes, AI will revolutionize the work that we're doing, but understanding how it can positively revolutionize the space that you're in.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And embracing that versus just like being terrified of it. Like, I know a ton of designers that were like, man, AI is going to take my job. I'm not going to be doing
Right.
logo work anymore.
Those
And
are
I'm
the
like,
people that are
Yeah.
thinking of their job the wrong way.
right.
Right.
We use AI every single day for adding efficiency to what we do. And as a small shop, like, we can do the thing we're really good at faster because of it.
Yeah.
But it's never going to be the thing that replaces like the human touch of what we can
Correct.
deliver.
Correct.
And we've understood that. And I know other agencies that are like terrified to even touch it. They won't let their employees have access to it.
Seriously.
Because they're afraid that like we're creating an ingenuine product.
That's
it's
so
going to
fascinating
cause
to
them
me.
to think less critically. I'm like, man, I use it all the time to help me think more critically.
I think it can do that though. It can cause people to think less critically.
Oh, absolutely.
sure.
So
Absolutely.
think about your young people that are coming into the workplace right now. They've never had a job anywhere where there wasn't AI nearby. They've never worked in a world where there wasn't AI. Those people are by default going to have a less likely chance of understanding how to parse data.
Yep.
Because they don't have to.
Yeah.
It's like the calculator obviously changed the way we do math.
Yeah.
It's fantastic and I'm happy it happened, but there's long division that nobody even has a clue how to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you need to do long division. I think that you need to understand critical thinking.
Yes.
And then let the machine do it for you.
Yes.
But if you get why it's doing it,
Yep.
Right.
you
I
know,
don't need
then
to
you
know
can
how
better use that data.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't need to know how the engine works. I just need to know how to drive the car with the engine. Right.
Right.
that's
But I
really
think
what
it
we're
helps
saying.
when you understand how the
sure.
engine works.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, I don't need to go change my spark plugs.
Right. I don't
Right.
need to understand the.
Right.
You don't have spark
That's-
plugs, but whatever.
Right. I don't need the cylinder circumference. The rings, etc.
Pistons or whatever.
Yeah.
We can
pistons,
come up
rings. I can
Yeah.
get all kinds of good
with all
stuff.
kinds of parts.
The other night after I texted Daniel, I was up just thinking about work, and I used AI. I asked a question about our business, and it took me in a completely different direction, and I got excited about it because it's exactly what we're talking about.
Yep.
I stressed everything I'm sharing right now, and how do we continue to grow our business and yet deal with these issues? And man, it was impressive. And I was on a conference call yesterday with one of my suppliers about how to implement this change.
Yeah.
So to your point,
Yeah.
it can work, right?
It's
It's not just
very similar
doom
to
and gloom.
what we do in branding, that it's all about positioning, right? Like it's all about how we position a brand
Yeah.
to whether or not it's going to be successful.
Yeah.
It's all about how you position the tool and how you interact with the tool to determine if it's going to be successful. It's the same thing when all of the new tools came out in Adobe Illustrator that are like simplifying processes for people that used to take years and years to do, right?
Yeah.
It's all about how you position the use of the tool. The tool is not the artist. The tool is
Yeah.
not the creator in any industry.
Yeah,
And
that's a good thought, because I have a branding class that I do that has a segment where we talk about knives and positioning.
Yep.
And then it shows a picture of a beautiful female chef, in the white chef's outfit, and then this tough looking military guy, and they're both holding a knife. And the whole idea is that the difference between those knives is mostly positioning. It's mostly how it's described, and then secondarily there's some aesthetic features, which again is design.
yeah.
But they both cut things.
Yep.
And it's all about, changing the way that people think about something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would agree.
Anyway, that was a boring topic.
That
Let's
was.
talk about, I want to
boy.
know what you guys think about protesting.
Yeah.
Just the idea of protesting.
Well, I read this really fascinating article this morning. You want to give it a shameless plug?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Interesting.
It was
I
from
get-
the Lorem Ipsum.
Yes, I get
Oh,
this
okay.
email every
That's
Friday,
it.
and I send it out to my friends because we were talking about this very issue. The stat that blew me away, by the way, before we get into protesting, Obama deported twice as many people as Trump has so far.
Yeah, I don't know if it's twice as many, but it's a significant
Well, I Googled.
difference. Yeah.
Well,
you looked it up.
Well, yeah,
You looked
on
it
the
up.
way
Yeah.
over, I asked
Yeah.
Eve Grok what the numbers were, and she
Yeah.
came back with it's almost 2.5 times
Yeah.
current.
What's really crazy about the way that the numbers are gathered is
Yeah.
the agencies gather the numbers a certain way, and they get to decide how they classify things.
Yeah.
And the Trump administration is known for grandstanding, so their stated numbers are enormous.
Yep.
But they've decided, it appears, and of course you could dig deep into this and find out where the data is correct or incorrect, and some of it's correct, certainly.
Sure.
But they have classified more things as removals,
Yeah.
but there's court documents for the
Right.
administrative removals.
Yeah.
And then there is
Yeah.
detaining someone and turning them away from the border or whatever,
Yeah.
which is not the same thing as a
Right, right,
deportation, right?
right.
So they've counted these huge numbers, but all the records are a little bit more reliable because there's a paper trail, and
Right.
it shows that they are behind the Obama administration.
The
Yeah.
interesting piece I asked, once I got all the numbers, I asked the question, why was Barack more successful in deporting more individuals than the current administration? And AI came back and said because it was hyper-focused on crime.
Yeah.
That's where their numbers really came into play.
One of the things that I suspect made a difference for all prior deportations prior to this administration of all parties, both parties,
Right.
is the administrative process
Yeah.
using the court system
Yep.
instead of, SWAT teams.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of labor. It takes
No,
a
it
whole
does.
lot of labor to
Yeah.
drive into a neighborhood
Oh my
and
God.
go into a house that could be dangerous. So you have to be prepared and have
Yeah.
weapons and,
Yeah.
intelligence tools and stuff like that. It is so much easier to just use the apparatus that's going and
Yep.
then,
Funnel through.
funnel
that.
people through the court system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What,
let's go
what are
back-
you thinking about immigration these days?
Yeah, I think that it is such a nuanced topic, which sounds so political.
Boy,
but
does that ever.
I-
Wow.
But I think that we don't give the nuance enough thought. I think we
Yeah.
often, society, because of the culture that we live in, is really good at saying this is the one piece of the issue and
Yeah.
nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you need to pick a side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm going to dox you if you pick
And
the other
there
one.
is nothing in life that is that black and white.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think that having strong borders, having a really safe country, really important. being a country that is not an asshole to people who are trying to escape horrible
Right.
situations.
Really important.
Really
too.
important.
Right.
That's,
Like,
that's what people say about the USA. They're like, that's a country that's an asshole to people.
right.
We heard that all the time in Mexico, by the
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No,
That's
because
hilarious.
two of the guys I was with, are huge MAGA fans. They really are.
Yeah.
And they would ask everyone they met. One guy in particular would ask, "Are you from Canada?" or "Where are you from?" They would say Canada. And he would dive into, he made a mistake. He once said, "What do you think about your president?" And they were like, "You mean our prime minister?" He's like, "Oh, yeah." And then if they sided with his thoughts, he'd jump right in.
Yeah.
And if they didn't, he would say, "Oh, you hate us." And they were like, "Well, not all of you, but
Right.
we hate him."
Yeah.
And it got, at one point in time, the other friend, Dwayne, and I looked at each other like, "Guys, what are you, shut the, just stop." What?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Hey, if you want to have a conversation with someone, where are you from? Why are you here?
Right.
Man, it's so cool to
Yeah.
me. Why do we have to do what
Ask
you
them
just
about
said?
something other than just their
Oh,
job
my
Right.
God.
and their politics.
Yep.
So
Anyway,
so
go
we,
on.
We
Sorry.
have this whole balance of these two issues. Go on with what you were saying.
Yeah, the
Sounded
whole
really important.
Yeah.
decisiveness.
No, I think it's just that, like, it is a conversation to have. It is not a definitive decision to make always. And I was raised in a household where, like, politics was not something we really discussed. It was not like a topic. I think my parents' generation was that way. And even in a lot of my friends, like, politics is not a thing that is discussed. And
Yeah.
I'm the guy who's always like, I would love to know what you think about this issue, or talk about this issue
Yeah.
with someone, or ask you,
Sure.
what do you think about protesting?
Yeah.
And most people in my family would be like, "Get out of the house. We're not talking about this. This is not what's happening at Thanksgiving."
Run!
And I'm like, I think there's so much to be learned from someone's perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you
Agreed.
walk into that conversation with the intent of learning, and not with the intent of, I'm going to change your mind by the time I
Yeah.
walk out of the room,
Yeah.
you can become a much more informed person at the
Yeah.
end of that. And
Well-
I can still have an opinion that you don't have to agree with.
Right.
And that's
And-
okay.
And also, you can actually, ironically, change more minds.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like when you listen to people and have a conversation that is focused on understanding them and not changing their mind, that person
Yep.
may, whether they were like this, prepared to beforehand or not, is more likely to let their guard down and then want to understand you.
Yes.
And then it just becomes an great
Yeah.
conversation with someone.
Yes.
And that's how you learn. You become more informed. You bend your views.
How
Yeah.
many times have any of us been with someone that we've met for the first time, and they ask a lot of questions about you or me or you, and you end up doing most of the talking, and when you're done and that guy walks away, you're like, "Damn, that was a nice guy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he allowed you the space to
Yep.
share whatever it was that you were
Yeah.
thinking or
I hate it when
feeling.
that happens because I feel like I should be asking more
I
questions.
know.
And then when I walk away thinking, all I did was talk about myself
I know.
in response to questions,
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm either a dick
or
self-absorbed, or both, probably both.
or
bit of both.
combination, or maybe it was just the right time for someone that
was-
wanted to hear exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, but then I think I should have dug into understanding
Yeah.
them better, because I value that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think
Yeah.
those are the people, though, that I often will follow up with and say,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Hey, that was amazing. I would love to get to know more about you."
Yeah.
And try to be intentional, because those are the people that I've learned more from,
Right.
rather than someone who's just like, "Gosh,
Agreed.
I had to carry that conversation the whole way, and that was painful."
right.
And those are people in my life who, like, have invested in me more than anyone else. When I've had that kind of interaction and pursued them like a stalker, and gotten them to say yes to another coffee,
Yeah.
and then those become some of the deepest friendships that I've had.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right.
That's really cool. Can we go back to your original question?
Yeah, let's talk about
protesting?
protesting.
I'm going to defer to you first, and then I'll
Great.
jump in, because there's a reason we're friends. My views are very similar to his.
That's great. I think protesting as a form of how you can express your First Amendment right is a beautiful thing.
Okay.
I think that there are ways to do that are effective. I think there are ways to do that, again, when you're approaching this as, I'm standing up for something I believe in, care about deeply, and want to try to be on the side of history that made a difference about this.
Yep.
I think that's amazing. I think when it crosses the line of I'm here just to join a movement and kind of like show my face and get on Instagram or social media and be like, I was a part of this thing. Dumb. Don't do that. Or I think if you become violent, if you become irrational, if you start doing things that you wouldn't do in your normal job, and how you interact with your coworkers, dumb. Don't do that. There are much more effective ways to have critical conversation with people and to share your thoughts and opinions than to go, again, be an asshole and do something crazy.
What's the benefit? Let's say it doesn't get violent. What's the benefit of a crowd standing in front of the State House holding up signs?
Yeah. I think that there is benefit in that there can be momentum that is generated from that, right? Yeah. Like we are all, as human beings, we are moved by story. Yeah. And I think that when the right people see those kinds of stories happen, they feel that momentum. The right people in the right positions of power can cause change to happen. If no one is standing out there, then a lawmaker who walks into the State House thinks that all their constituency loves everything that's happening. Yeah. Right? When you don't hear feedback, you think everything's great. When you see people who have feedback for you and they are protesting in a healthy way, I think it can be a way to communicate, hey, something might need to shift. And I think if we aren't creating those spaces for those stories, then it's unlikely that anything's ever going to change. We're going to sit and just nothing will happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you two big protests that have happened. By the way, I don't believe protesting does much, just for the record.
That's great. I'm curious.
I never participate because I don't think it moves the needle personally. But
okay, I think you're wrong.
Go ahead. I could be wrong. Martin Luther King, massive protest, civil rights, probably the last great protest that we've had that's actually moved the needle, right? That's changed our culture.
Yep.
I'm going to give you a current day example. Gun control. Protest out the Rudy Gazoo. I mean, equal to, if not greater than, Martin Luther King at the time, the number of people. What's happened with gun control?
What protest was big related to gun control?
The shootings at the schools started there. So there was protests. So let's start with
some response to
Columbine.
Sandy Hook.
So it's where suddenly, we started having these schools that kids were walking in and being shot at. And then there's this alarming upsurge or uptick to families saying enough's enough. Yeah. And it went from east to west, north to south. And it was huge. Yeah. And I thought maybe, just maybe, we're going to get a little something. And we got nothing.
Here's what I think about that category, that particular protest or series of protests. Right. I feel like when I, just to use this as a metaphor, when I write a newsletter and I get 4 or 5 email responses, I think that 4 or 5 people represents a theme of a much larger number of people. Yeah. Yep. I think that. I can't prove it, and I'm not going to try. Right.
So how many did you get today?
So 4 or 5.
Okay, there you go.
So
ironic.
I think it was 5.
Okay,
or maybe it was 4. I can't remember.
I purposely didn't send you one.
Thank you. You're welcome. Not bothering me. I was busy. I was replying to all the emails.
Right. But it's 5 emails, right?
But
usually I call.
The point is, like, there's not an enormous number of people that are going to go to protests. Right. A percentage of the United States. But what you will have is those politicians are going to say, okay, this protest happened and it was fairly small. This one happened, it was really big. This one gathered momentum, and they think twice about what's going on in their constituency, especially when that's coming to them. Like I've heard people explain that when there are people calling their senator or their legislator, those legislators are thinking, okay, I know it was only 200, but 200 is there's an uptick.
When it's more than normal.
Right. The flip side of that is we have a current president that has proved that it doesn't matter. Like all of that, everything that we're talking about flies in the face of what he has done. He's actually gotten away with everything.
Yeah. Well, I just think that the protests need to be much bigger if there's going to be change and someone as hard-nosed as him. But let me point out what has happened. Okay. Is there's been ongoing protests in Minnesota, which we've talked about a lot.
Still going on.
And they're still going on, and they're happening in sub-zero weather. And now the protests get bigger when somebody dies.
Mm-hmm. Always.
And the narrative doesn't match up, between what the administration is saying to sort of, basically rebuttal the situation.
Right.
And so the protests get even bigger. And now they're reforming the way that they're doing their work in Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah.
The protests do work, including on the hardest motherfucker out there.
What do you mean by they do work, though? What are you?
It makes
how
a
are
difference.
How are you judging the difference?
I can't be bothered to go to a protest. It is not worth my time.
Agreed. Same.
But when you have protests and there's some kind of groundswell, you get more media coverage on a topic. That topic becomes top of mind for people, and small protests attract medium protests. Medium protests
No
attract
disagreement
big
there.
protests.
Yep.
What changes happened in Minnesota because of this? That's what I'm asking.
So Trump has changed his personnel over there.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled
Solid.
out Bovino and he put in Homan or whatever the guy's name is.
Yep.
And he has taken Christine Ohm out of the loop, or alluded to doing that.
Maybe.
And they are now talking to the governor and trying to negotiate ways to collaborate better.
Yep.
And they're de-escalating, or at least saying that they're going to de-escalate over there. Okay, so even just if he's saying that is him conceding in his messaging, and that is the one thing that he tends not to do, is concede in his rhetoric. Mm-hmm. So it has worked, regardless of what the end result is going to be.
That's what you're measuring. That's what you're measuring as success.
Yes,
right?
But I can also say that
I'm not saying that's. I'm not
if you look at
that.
the nature of protesting, there's always going to be protests on both sides of an issue, right? So there's going to be, there was the Black Lives Matter protests, and then there was, the January 6th insurrection, and all these things, or whatever you want to call it, if you don't want to call it an insurrection. And so both sides of the aisle, so to speak, do protests.
Yep.
And then they get attention, and that attention either moves the needle or it doesn't, but sometimes it does. And the needle does not move if that doesn't happen, if that protest does not take place.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's yes, and I think what we've also seen in what's happening in Minnesota, there is also an additional groundswell of individuals who may not ever go to a protest, but they're going to call their senator. They're going to call, right? We've seen an uptick. There's data that shows we've seen an uptick in people calling their senator, talking about how ICE is handling certain situations, talking about what's happening in Minnesota. And so I think when a protest is effective, there's often an undergirding of other groundswells helping to support that. That
the
may not be
media
as
narrative
public.
and all that.
Yeah, I would argue, and I don't disagree with any of that. I think there's a puppet master behind all of that, right? So what I mean by that, there's someone involved with that protest behind the scenes that is party driven, that is sending out text, sending out emails. Here's the button you click on to make contact with your local representative. Here's everything's already pre-filled, right? And it works. It works beautifully. So in that respect, I say 100% that works. I don't know I guess what I'm trying to say is that let's stay with the insurrection for a second. So we have the insurrection. We have a wicked protest that turns violent, and our now president comes into office and he pardons everybody. Mm-hmm. So did the protest really work?
Yeah.
Or did it not work? Right?
It did.
I think it too.
But like wars can be won or lost, but the middle gets moved.
Right.
I would agree with that, Dan.
Yeah,
I
like
think
the borders
middle
get moved.
concept. Yeah, I would agree.
And the
with
border, I would say has definitely moved on that subject.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that winning, right? Did the protest work? Like that definition is very gray because it depends on
working.
what is working,
Exactly.
and it depends on what side of the issue you stand on.
Yeah.
Because someone who might not call that an insurrection said, no, it absolutely didn't work. But there might be someone who said, hey, I stood on, this side of an aisle and then saw what happened, saw how the government handled that. And like, I don't support that anymore. I don't believe in that.
Right.
Or has seen what's happened in Minnesota and said, I don't stand with what is happening there. And I'm moving my perspective. Right. And so the definition of like what works is very personal and it's hard to quantify.
Agreed.
Does a protest work? Does a speech work? Does a whatever work?
Yeah. And I think because we talk about this a lot here, because people only use one source for their news,
Yep.
or typically most people use one or two sources, and it's usually another source that adds on to the existing source.
Yep.
There's very little analytical or deep thought beyond what's being fed to the individual, so that when they do get involved with some of these situations and it gets sideways, the insurrection or Minnesota or fill in the blank, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Like, what just happened? People
Right.
are dying. What is going
Right.
on,
Yep.
right? So in that respect, I think you're spot on with what we're saying. But I think in some cases, I feel like it's too little too late. I feel like we are an uneducated society when it comes to understanding the real issues. I think we're highly educated in the point of view we have.
Yeah.
That's all we have. But no one, and we talked about this on our business or on our golf trip. Hey, I posed the question to everybody: how much news do you watch in a given day?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you watch?
Yep.
And do you balance it with anything else, right? And that became a conversation almost every day,
Yeah.
which I was really proud of, not because I brought it up, but because we're talking about it,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's half the battle, and not getting
100%.
pissed off at each other.
Right.
And I get accused of being, in certain groups of friendships, I get accused of being a Democrat. I'm a registered independent voter.
Yeah.
I vote for the best
You can
person.
register
As an independent,
as a party in Indiana. I
As an
guess
independent, yeah.
I guess if
Yeah.
you go to the primaries.
Yeah. What ultimately comes from having the conversation, you start to be viewed and you start viewing people differently.
Yes.
And suddenly the accusations and the hard stance of trying to poke each other becomes, okay. That's that. You take a moment, you
Yeah.
pause, genuinely pause to understand why someone. So one of the guys watches a shit ton of news. He's retired. It's the first thing he turns on. It's
Yep.
the last thing he turns on when we come home. And I realized, I don't know if he would agree with this, but lonely would be a word I would use.
Yeah.
There's no significant other. There's no partner in the relationship. It's him. And so he finds his partner with the television
Yeah.
or the network. And I have empathy for that. I can understand why someone would do that.
Yeah.
So I start to see that differently.
Yep.
So my reactions become different based on the tone of the conversation. right?
Yeah, I think when we realize that we are all human beings, and when you
Amen.
can identify yourself and someone else
Yes.
as a person who has feelings and
Yes.
thought and complex emotion, and it is
Dude.
not easy to navigate in yourself,
Right.
it's much easier to understand like why someone might think the way they think, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
And I think that has been part of what is lost in my generation, the generations that are coming up, is like we've lost this idea of we are all people.
Right.
And people are allowed to change their minds. People are
I
allowed
hope
to
so.
express doubt and different opinions.
Can you imagine how boring this world would be if we all thought the same?
Oh, it'd
and
be
alike?
terrible.
It would be awful.
I've seen Pluribus on
I've not
Apple
watched that
TV,
yet.
and that is the premise of the story.
Is it really?
It is very, very interesting and totally unbelievable. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's science fiction, but
Yeah,
it's,
right,
it's,
right.
it's cool. It's a
Yeah.
cool story.
Going back to your Christianity just for a quick
Yeah.
second. Daniel and I spent a lot of time talking about this subject. If we treated everyone with love, kindness, and respect, dude, people would be so... The guard would be let down.
Yep.
There would be a softness to the conversation, a willingness to want to hear and understand.
Yep.
And I say it all the time. That's the battle. Right?
Yes. And I think having worked in the church, having been on the like industry side of
Yep.
that, the church has not done itself any favors
No.
and not done the community any favors
No.
in that, right?
No.
I know, like I would still call myself a follower of the person of Jesus because of the people that I know, not because of the institutions that I've been a part
That's
of.
right.
Yeah.
There are great things that institutions do, but at scale, it's very easy for them to harm people.
Oh my
Because
gosh,
the narrative shifts,
Right.
the culture shifts, right? All these things happen. And so again, it comes back to seeing the person in front of you as a human being. And the way I view them is a human being made in the image of God, right?
Yeah.
They're an image bearer.
Right.
And so they're a person. Like that's how I need to treat and respect the situation, and not their political ideology. They're on a certain side of an aisle.
Right.
Like they're a human,
Your
and
faith
I have
is in
empathy for
your
them.
faith is in Jesus Christ, not the church.
Yep.
Now, how do you translate that to someone who, like, if somebody asked you the same question, wanted you to explain
Yeah.
where you stand on those things, and they did not come from a religious background and did not understand the language that you just used, because what you just used was very inside.
Yes, 100%.
Inside language.
Yeah, I think so much of that is about, again, going back to storytelling. It's about telling the story of my experience, right? I have been through a lot of crazy things in my life, and the only way for me to understand and contextualize them is that there is some kind of higher power who is responsible for all of that.
Yeah.
And what has been true for me is that what I read in scripture has aligned with what has happened in my life.
Right.
And that's the way for me to explain and open an invitation to like, check it out for yourself. Like, I'm not here to convince you that I'm right or wrong.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, I believe I'm right, but at the end of the day, I could be totally wrong.
Right.
Like, I can get to the end of my life and die and nothing happens. I live underground for the rest of my life, and there's nothing else beyond that.
Yeah.
I hope not, because that sounds really boring.
Yeah, it sounds awful.
But that could be the case, right?
Could
I
be.
don't know until
Could
I
be.
get there.
But
I
wouldn't you
have
rather had
seen
your bed on
things-
the other side of
Yes.
that, right?
And I have seen things to cause the belief that I have.
Yeah.
But it's all about an invitation to like check it out for yourself, right? Like that's what I had to do. I grew up in a Christian household, and like my parents had their faith, but like I was super skeptical of it. I asked a ton of questions, and until I had my own experiences was I able to say, yeah, this is something I actually believe in.
Of course.
You know, I heard somebody describing the Jewish perspective on the Sabbath, and the topic this was a non-Jewish person who had a Jewish friend who broke it down for him. And I know lots of Jewish people. They're huge listeners of the podcast. They're probably going to correct me. But
The 4 or 5 emails.
so and if my phone starts ringing, that's what it is. It's live callers.
Live
Right.
callers.
Yep.
But anyway, so the whole idea of the Sabbath, I always thought of it as this is a day to worship, right? This is a day to focus on God or whatever.
Right.
But the Jews, what they do is they don't work on the Sabbath, right? And they're a little bit more diligent about that than your Protestant or I guess just the Christian religion. So the person that was this friend of a friend corrected the view by saying it's not about punishment for working or anything like that. It's about not altering your surroundings. It's about not tampering with the things that are surrounding you that are good.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really fascinating way to look at the world, and it was enlightening to me because I had never really saw it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was really cool to think, okay, it's not that I can't work, it's that I don't want to change things, at least for one day. Just leave it the way it is and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool.
And I think it's
It is cool.
It is something too that like Christianity has put so much rigidity around things like the conversation of the Sabbath, of like it's always on Sundays and you better have your butt in church.
Yeah.
And like that's not the reality for a lot of people, because honestly, taking your kids to church is work. Like that is hard.
Having kids is hard enough.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Getting
why I
them to
don't have any anymore.
I mean,
Christianity has been politicized.
100%.
In the last 40 years in particular, it is off the rails
Yep.
in terms of that. When you have preachers standing in front of congregations, that happened recently, and say that we have to vote for this man because his view on right to life is the view that we stand by.
Yep.
But he can be just the worst possible human being and everything else.
Yep.
You got to be freaking kidding me.
Yep.
Like that's not the stance, right?
Yep.
So I really struggle with that.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. And I was a part of an institution who, after I left, that's the direction that they went. And that's the statement that was made.
I couldn't. Lori looked at me like, has he lost his mind?
Yeah.
And I said, evidently, he has.
Yeah. It's fine.
Going back to this Christianity thing. So Lori and I grew up Catholic.
Okay.
And one of her girlfriends, a childhood friend, introduced her to a current girlfriend here in Indy. And it was happenstance. We bumped into them at the, some outdoor musical thing. And we were invited to Traders Point.
Yeah.
And we went. We listened to Aaron. He's a phenomenal preacher.
Yep.
Like his style. and Lori wept at the service. It was just beautiful.
Yeah.
So we went for a little more than a year, maybe a year and a half. But what I realized quickly is that as much as they say they embrace everybody, they embrace everyone because they want everyone to change to them.
Yeah.
So they embrace the gay culture. They embrace that. But unquestionably, I'm not putting you on the spot, I know for a fact they're trying to convince them that they shouldn't be gay, that's antichrist. That's not the way you are. It's your choice. And I could not disagree with that more
You could
vehemently.
not disagree with it. Okay.
I disagree with the fact that they're saying, well, that's your choice. That's
Right.
not who you are.
But if
you
but
choose
if
to
you
be gay.
believed that, would you not teach that?
Yeah, well, of course, right? If they believe that, they're using scripture to say that that's an abomination, that gayness is a choice, and I vehemently disagree with that. I don't believe that, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you're a Christian, this is my premise, and this is when I realized I'm in the wrong place. If you are a Christian, you accept everyone where they are, and you're not trying to change anybody.
Yep.
There's a mission there. There's something behind the curtain
Right.
that got exposed quickly, and I realized Lori and I both were like, "What the?"
And so you guys
be
had to
kidding
be
me.
out.
Oh,
on that
we
one.
were out quick.
Yeah.
really,
yeah.
really quick.
It is very much, again, like that's where we have landed in our lives, is like, this is about relationship and proximity with the person of Jesus and my neighbor.
Yeah.
And the person who lives down the street and the person in my community that I talk to in the grocery store, more so than it is about alignment to an institution.
I agree with that.
And it's always been a weird...
But they sell the institute. You
Oh.
can't.
Well, that's
be-
because they have a marketing budget.
That's correct.
Right.
right.
You got to go to church. You can't worship God and not go to church. And I'm like, why can't I?
Yeah.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I think, again, when you look at what is church, that question is not black and white.
No.
And we want to make it, we want black and white answers, but it will never be a black and white answer. And
I don't recall anything ever being written. I could be wrong in Scripture that says you've got to go to church.
Except for in the New Testament.
Yeah, well,
It does say
yes,
that.
and that's been
Yeah.
manipulated.
Well,
That's
the
a
whole
nother-
thing has been
yeah,
manipulated,
right,
but
of course,
the New Testament.
That's why I was like, oh, I don't want to go there, but we're going. That's a
said-
whole nother podcast.
So Paul said in the New Testament,
Yes.
don't forsake the assembling of the saints.
Right.
So you can obviously split hairs and interpret that a bunch of different ways.
Yep.
But it was, to me, sounded very clear that he was saying, you guys should get together in the context of your belief.
Yep.
But what I think is that all of that was written by people with an agenda.
Oh, 100%.
So
Yes.
there was clearly an agenda to build up headcount
Yeah.
in buildings.
Yeah.
Well, now that's how it looks now. I'm
Yeah.
not
Right.
saying it was intended to be
Yeah.
that from the
Yeah,
beginning.
well, when you
Yeah.
look at the gospel, I mean, Lauren and I are going through Mark right now. It's a long story, but we're going through it. I think it was written 40 years in the aftermath. I can't remember what I did 40 days ago, 40 hours ago, 40 months ago, and we're talking 40 years? Come on. You know that's been artificially
Well, unless it was
inaccurate.
inspired by
Right.
God.
Okay, I would agree with that. But we're human. And if I tell you a story today and you tell him tomorrow and he tells his wife and his wife tells her friend
But
and
if
her friend tells my friend a year from now, I promise you that story is
But
different.
if I jump into your body,
Okay,
and
yes,
control
yes.
your hands as a
I am-
typer because
yes,
you're not
yes,
a
yes.
scribe.
Yep.
If
But-
I jump into your body and
Right.
spiritually direct you to write something a specific way,
I'm not going to contest
I
that.
think that you could get it exactly right.
I think you
Yes.
could.
Absolutely.
I think you could.
It's never happened.
But I think you could, though, to your
in
point.
any other scenario, so we can't verify it.
Right.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I heard
Yeah.
an analogy. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead. I want to hear Alex.
I'm 100% like, there are times that I look at the things in scripture or I ask those exact questions and I'm like, this is freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Like the cosmic coincidence that had to come together for this to all happen and for this to be exactly how it was written and inspired, like that seems wild.
Right.
And yet, in my own personal experience, I have had too many encounters where I also say that is wild, and the only thing I can do to explain that is what I have read in scripture.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is the
Same.
only thing that makes sense to me.
Same.
That's the only thing you've come up with
Yes.
Right.
so far.
Yes.
And I think that people also explain in their beliefs.
Yep.
I'm not saying this to challenge your beliefs, but
Yeah.
I
I'd
think
say
that
that's true.
people
Absolutely.
people introduce their own beliefs into their interpretation of the source material.
Right.
And that is why there are denominations.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is why there are believers and non-believers.
Yeah.
It's because everybody is introducing their point of view into what they're reading.
Yeah.
It is the exact same conversation you were just discussing of a Christian's view on, is it a sin to be gay? Right? Like that is how you individually are interpreting what Scripture has to say, and you introducing your own set of beliefs
100%.
onto Scripture.
Right.
And is there a right and wrong? Like, I'm not the person to tell you that. But it's that same conversation, and that has happened for thousands of years, layered on top of layer on top of layer, until we reach this point where you ask someone what Christianity is, and most people, there's no consistent answer.
Yeah.
None.
Christian is, most religions are more cultural than they are dogmatic, or they're based more on the experience of being in the culture than they are on a set of beliefs. In fact, I find that most of the people I know that are Christians, and of course the two of you excluded, they do not give a shit about the actual systematic theology.
Yeah.
They do not care.
Yeah.
And
So it's just it's that right here, right now, that cultural piece, right?
Or they
here, right now.
care about the things that connect to what they already believe.
Yes.
But they don't want to go deeper than
It
that.
fits.
Right?
It fits them right here,
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
I agree.
And
with
they leave it at
I
that.
totally agree with you on this.
And then there are people that are just like dug in on understanding and unpacking and going into detail. And I admire that a lot more.
Yeah.
You may not know this, but I actually don't believe, but came from belief for years. And somewhere in my 30s, I departed from belief in faith. And it was because I was digging in and would not. I'm one of these guys that gets obsessive about things.
Yeah.
No, you don't say.
And so I said, I have to unpack this. I have to understand it better. I need to be more true to it. I need to be more committed to it. And I put in all the effort and came out empty-handed.
Yeah.
And so I have such a respect for the people that do that, regardless of what their outcomes are.
Right.
And I just don't understand. Not that I can't feel okay with them as friends. Like I have some amazing friends that I'm, speaking negatively of this point of view, right?
Yeah.
But I just think that if you don't care about theology, I just never understood that.
Yep.
Now my wife, on the other hand, she never cared. So
There you go.
She's one of those people.
Yeah. Sometimes I find myself thinking beyond just the scope of religion, but just our atmosphere, the tilt of the axis of our Earth, our solar system, how just 1 degree in any of those 3 pieces I just mentioned is tilted or moved in a different direction. We're not here. We're gone. Like it's such a small.
What thing that?
Well, it can be 1 degree at the tilt of the Earth's axis, just 1 degree in a different direction.
The axis actually shifts.
Yes, it does. But
so
I'm saying,
so
but
it's
what
not
I'm
1
saying,
degree.
Well, 1 degree in the overall methodology of our rotational pull.
So I think that is a story that is based on truth that is stretched.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because
I'm sure.
I'm only using that one example.
Make it 10 degrees.
Okay. Well,
Make
maybe
it whatever number.
Well,
you feel
if we make
comfortable
it that, then we're making it up.
with. Well, no. We're not making it up. We're saying scientifically.
We're saying that
we're not
saying
flat.
that
We're saying
all of this was all of this was a long shot.
Is this about to become a flat earther conversation?
Yeah, I knew that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all flat.
Okay.
I actually
I
know
think you
some flat
understand the
earthers,
premise
too.
of what I'm trying to say without
Yes.
the specificity.
You're saying this was a long shot.
Yes.
And I
Thank
also
you.
think,
Thank
like,
you.
I 1,000,000% acknowledge that to believe in a religion, right, to believe in the person of Jesus takes some just blind belief that is hard to explain when you dig into the theology.
They don't
and
call
when
it
you
faith
dig
for
in.
nothing.
Right.
And so, like, I acknowledge that, and I have become comfortable with that, but I have always wrestled with that because I am also a person who's like, I want to understand how this thing works, how it ticks, how it moves, why does it work the way that it does?
I think
and
that's just being human. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I've had to come to that fact of like,
All of
I'm
us.
okay that I don't understand certain things, or these things don't make sense. The rest of it to me does, and I have had experiences, but that doesn't mean, again, that I'm right or that has to be how it is.
Do you feel like that comes to you less
Readily?
No. Do you feel like that comes to you easier now because you've gotten older and you're not wrestling with those very issues as much because you've had the process of time to deal with it?
I think
Or the
some
wisdom.
of it, I think a lot of it for me was becoming a dad.
Yeah.
And walking through that like journey of having 2 kids, and like there are things that
There you go.
Yeah, being
There
a
you
dad
go.
is hard, and
Yeah.
and raising kids is hard, and there are parts of the like beauty of watching my kids. I was at the Pacers game the other night.
Did we
all,
win or
congrats.
did we lose?
Thanks, we won. We beat the
Oh,
Bulls.
it was the Bulls
It was a
game.
miracle.
Yeah, it was
My
awesome.
father-in-law is a big Bulls fan, so my son and my father-in-law
That's
sat
awesome.
in our normal seats.
Nice.
I just had a seat, so I could go with them, but I was across the arena from them, but I could see them. And the Pacers had been down; they were coming back, and my son was just losing his mind, like standing up, cheering, ramming into my father-in-law, giving him a hard time because he's a Bulls fan. And in that moment, like I just had this unexplainable, emotional, like I'm sitting in an arena by myself, tearing up, watching my son celebrate this thing that he loves.
Yeah.
And that's that like intangible thing that like I can't explain why I felt that, other than like I have this crazy deep love for my son. And I believe that he was created as an image bearer of God.
Yeah.
And that is like, I can't explain that. I can't give theology around that. I can't give data that explains why that is.
I don't think we're supposed to.
And I've had to come to that conclusion, but I also, again, like I think that's my experience.
Yeah.
And I think that that's not everyone's experience. And when a person who says they're a Christian holds that over someone's head as like, well, this is why you have to believe.
Right.
Like you've missed the script. You've missed the whole point of it.
My
Yeah,
goodness,
so
isn't that the truth?
How do you feel about the whole idea of evangelism? Like essentially trying to convince someone to be a part of your tribe.
I have always been incredibly uncomfortable with it in the institutional sense of how modern Western church does it. Like always been incredibly uncomfortable with it. I think I've always known that that is part of sharing my faith, is telling my story and telling my experience.
Right.
But I've always just been very uncomfortable with how the church has done that for years and years, until last year, my wife and I just like figuring out what does faith look like in our home now that I don't work in a church, like all of this. Met with some friends who are doing a ministry thing in the Boston area.
Yep.
And really just put into context, like, this is about community with people in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And like, if you're a good person, someone's going to ask you a question about like, why aren't you an asshole? Right. In today's society.
Yeah.
Or
and you have an opportunity to say like, this is what has happened in my life. And this is what I happen to believe, and stop it there. Not, and you should believe it too.
Right. Yeah.
Here's the pamphlet. Here's the track.
I like it when someone approaches you and says, "What's going on in your life, man?" Because that's cool. I want whatever that is. What is that? I want some of that. Right?
Yeah, and it goes back to
opens
the
up a great conversation
of relationship and conversation, and like being willing to talk about that.
Yeah. Does yes or no, has that question actually been posed to you? And you simplified it. I'm not saying that it's always this crass, but why aren't you an asshole? Has that ever come up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It has.
So,
for me, it has. I can't.
Yeah, for me, it has. Yeah.
I cannot tell you how common it is for people that don't believe in God at all to be incredibly nice people.
Absolutely.
So what's their answer?
Maybe they're practicing just be kind, love, be respectful. I don't know.
So it's available to all of us.
It is
what you're
available
telling
to
me.
all of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
All of
I mean,
it.
I think
and maybe you don't have to label it either. You know.
Right.
I think being a human, you can be a good person.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what you believe. Like we are born with a sense of morality, and you can be a good person. Like it doesn't matter. You don't have to layer this belief on top of it.
Yeah.
I choose to, because that's what helps me make sense of my life and what's happened in my life.
Yeah.
But I know lots of people who wouldn't say that they're a Christian and are amazing human beings and are incredible people, and some of my best friends.
Yeah.
And the kindest people that I have ever encountered, right?
So tell me about we're born with a sense of morality. You feel the same way, Michael, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I believe that we're born with knowing right and wrong. I really do.
And how do you explain the fact that right and wrong has changed over generations?
Environment. It's you and I have a mutual friend who's had this conversation with the two of us before, that our good fortune is because of the byproduct of how we were brought into this world and where geographically we were brought into this world.
Yep.
So do I believe all human beings are born with the ability to disseminate right and wrong, or good from bad, or love from hate? I do believe that. But I also believe that we crazy human beings have the ability to change that dynamic in someone by the environment in which we raise them.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
So, Alex, do you believe that morality is fundamental to the makeup of the universe?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. And I think that off of what you were saying, I think that, and back to our previous conversation, I know people who don't have a faith, like that's not part of their life, and they still make choices that I and society would say, like, you are a good person. You understand the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a function of being a human rather than a function of it is born out of.
I would also add, we are created in the image and likeness of the Almighty, and if that's human, then that is acting in that way, right? Regardless if you call it religion or not, that begets a premise that you've got to buy into, or at least acknowledge. And if you do, then it becomes an easier conversation.
And I think you said that exactly right, is that it comes from a premise of accepting a certain set of beliefs, as brute facts, not proven facts.
Right. That's exactly right. Brute facts. I heard something on a TV series or a Netflix series that I just thought was interesting. This girl is caught up in a cult. It's genuine. It's a true cult. And I'm not going to bore everyone with the premise, but she said, her boyfriend said, "You're in a cult." And she said, "There are crazier cults." And he said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "I don't know, a Messiah delivered by a woman who was never impregnated by man, that went on to walk the earth to preach the word of God, that had disciples, and there's nothing left to show for it. And yet it's," and she just went on and on. I'm like, she said, "That's Skyfire, right?" And I'm like, oh my God, she's right.
Yeah.
An alien. She called Jesus an alien. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you could.
It's crazy.
It is crazy, right? It's really hard to get your arms wrapped around that. And I'm not sure I will ever fully get my arms wrapped around it as much as I want to believe in the goodness in everybody. That's what I really want to believe in.
So is there, I don't know where you stand on this topic, Alex, so you can answer this a different way.
Okay.
But Michael, is there good in Donald Trump, who you're not a fan of?
Yeah, no, there is, for sure. I think there's good in everybody. I really do believe that. I do believe also that our ego gets in the way and can diminish more of the good that
that's
we
a
can do,
reasonable
right?
answer.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good answer.
And I would say the same thing, right? Like, I believe that everyone has good in them.
Yeah.
I believe that we have free will to determine how we choose to either activate that good or suppress it.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Donald Trump has good in him?
Yeah, I do. And I think that, as you know, I would often suspend the opportunity to define the word good.
Yeah.
But
Same. I think I understand the context.
I think that he has decency, and at his core, he can probably be a great guy, and he could probably be a jackass, and he has one of the biggest egos I've ever seen, and that is even to. I have a really good friend who we have conversations basically every week about our different political views, and he is like totally dyed in the wool conservative. He's like, I just hate when he talks.
Yep.
because he makes himself and everybody else look like a jackass.
Yeah, I grew up. I started my professional career in upstate New Jersey when he was, this is 25 years ago, when he's already somebody, but he's becoming more of somebody.
Yeah.
And he was a knucklehead then.
Yeah.
It only gets
Yep.
worse. I
Yep.
would, the goofy part about all this, there are people that quietly do amazing things that have the same amount of wealth or even more wealth that are in the shadows doing really good things in life that are not calling attention to themselves. I want more of that.
But
in my
I
life.
wonder about the way that positioning, like we talked about positioning in the professional element that we do in our line of work, positioning can change the way you see a person. So like think of Vladimir Putin, who we as Americans see as this evil dictator.
Right.
Yeah.
And I still hold by that view.
Me too.
But he also, I don't know anything about his family. I have no idea if he has kids and all that.
Right.
I think he does, but he also could be just a regular guy
He could be.
who happens to have climbed to this,
Right.
ascended to this position in the government and makes these decisions that are tough decisions that we all think are terrible.
Yeah.
And he might be just like
He might be.
your buddy
I
next
also
door.
think, though, that when you give great power to a person, we're human.
Yep.
We do some really. The three of us would do some really stupid shit if we were given that
Yeah,
amount of power.
you're absolutely right.
We would. There's no way you
100%.
couldn't. It's just being human, right?
I think I equate that when I was in ministry, the thing that people always said to like define if what we were doing was good was that healthy things grow. And that was the like measure of like, okay, if this program's growing, if this ministry's growing, it's good.
Or it's well funded.
Right. and then someone said to me, cancer grows.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Cancer
Oxygen.
is like, it's a horrible thing. Weeds grow. Like they'll destroy your garden. Horrible things also grow.
Yeah.
I think that's the same for the conversation around like, are we good people as the decision that we're making good?
But you can also still carry that metaphor forward because cancer grows most aggressively when it has all the carcinogens that it needs to grow.
Right.
So healthy things grow, even if it's unhealthy to the body. And I'm not trying to get into biology, but like the same is true. Like you put the same energy into this thing that you're going to look back and be proud of versus the thing that you're going to look back and be ashamed of. Those things are going to grow because they are getting the nutrients they need.
Right.
And that I wanted to make sure that we talked about this before we finish this conversation. You suggested the whole idea of to start something new.
Yeah.
You have to be obsessed with it.
Yep.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah. If you're going to do something worth doing, it has to consume every part of you. Right? Like I love food. I think like I love big fan.
Yeah, me
right?
too. I like it.
Cooking, kitchen culture, chefs, like those are the people that I emulate and follow.
Yeah.
And when you look at the restaurants that end up being Michelin star restaurants, the chefs or the front of house managers of those restaurants are fully consumed by every little aspect of the experience and the food that they're presenting.
I know. I've seen The Bear.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the greatest shows of all time.
Great
And
series.
I've like
It is a great show.
it's so good.
series.
And
Every
back
time I
out.
see that show, it makes me miss being in the restaurant business.
Does it
'Cause
really?
We had a
Oh, I'm
tiny
sure,
little
yeah.
bistro, and even in that setting of a tiny restaurant, it was still restaurant life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, the energy that goes into it, the artistry that goes into somebody's meal. It's going to be gone in
The
10
intimacy
minutes.
of it all.
But
Yeah.
but when Carrie and I watch The Bear, we both, especially her because she's an amazing chef, we both walk away thinking, man, it makes me miss the restaurant.
right.
I
Yeah.
do not miss it.
But like
if you do.
If you look at one of my favorite restaurants stories to follow is 11 Madison Park in New York City.
Yeah.
If you look at the guys who really came in and revitalized that, if they were not obsessed about every last detail about how that restaurant operates and the quality of food in which they serve, they would not be the number 1, number 2 restaurant
Can
in
you
the
be
world.
too obsessive though?
But I think that's the challenge.
There's a balance. You've
is
got to find a balance.
It has to be, because then it can become all consuming and destroy your life.
Well,
right? That's the like, how
and
do
the
you
restaurant
find
will
that?
burn out as well.
100%.
In this paradigm
Right.
that we're discussing.
And I think it's the same for us in creative fields,
Yeah.
in whatever field you're in. Like, you can become too obsessive.
Yeah.
And so
Crash
it's
and burn.
finding that threshold of like, where is that obsession healthy?
Right.
And then where are you just a psychopath that no one wants to be around anymore, including your significant other?
Yeah.
I think that happens to a lot of people in power, by the way.
Well,
that last piece that you just said.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right about that, Michael, because
Just
I think
happens.
that that's where we think of like this goodness that's in people, but also there's a dopamine reaction
Yes.
to every experience you have. And if somebody ends up in a place of power, they are going to be addicted to the attention,
Yep.
to the thrill of the results they're getting,
Yep.
and they are going to be obsessed with it, and
Yep.
they are going to oftentimes be drawn to things that other people can look at as harmful.
Yeah.
Which somebody said to me, actually it was actually in a comment today in response to the newsletter. This guy that is a regular reader says that that a lot of times that when somebody is in management, the most effective managers are people that are often hated.
Yep.
They
You
can
know,
be.
you hear the stories of, Steve Jobs as like one of the iconic leaders
Yeah.
who was like ruthless and all this stuff, or Elon Musk, who's obsessive and ruthless. And I thought about that, and I thought, first of all, he's using it to talk about this whole political thing that we've exchanged some emails, and we sit on different sides of the middle, right? We both land kind of seems, based on what I've read from the guy, that he lands somewhere on the middle on the other side. But we're talking about politics, but I'm also thinking, okay, as a manager, I've had many times where people have, basically been not liked me and been aggravated with me as a manager. And it's maybe other reasons that I don't want to admit to, but the ones that I know is that I'm decisive.
Mm-hmm.
I have high expectations. If you don't meet them, I will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm focused on the results, on getting the best results.
And you have great tolerance.
And I have an
Impatience.
enormous amount of humility and patience. But
It's well known. It's well documented.
and Carrie's like, you need to go to therapy. You need to learn how to
I'm
be
good.
kinder to
I'm
people.
good. I'm
and I'm
good.
like,
Good.
I don't have time
Yeah.
to be kind to people. I need
don't have
things
time
shit
for
to
it.
get done.
Right.
But anyway, so we're talking about this, and then we're also talking about the whole managing the circumstance related to the Minnesota
Yeah.
situation. And I'm just like, a manager also needs to know how to stick to their decision.
Yep.
Because if you change the rules constantly
Right.
based on mood, then
Right.
people can't succeed.
Yes.
And a lot of times when you put a decision in place, you've said this many times, I just want to know what the rules are
Yep.
so that I can operate in that
Yes.
set of rules.
Yeah.
I don't have to like the rules, but if I know them,
Yep.
I will succeed within that
100%.
world.
Maybe this is a good sign off, but going back to the protest, which started our morning off with your article, I'm all for protesting. Just do it the right way. Play within the rules. Right? Don't provoke. Don't antagonize. Don't put yourself in harm's way. For any of the protesters that are listening to this, just protest peacefully. Get your message out. But there's really, truly, there's no reason to get killed over a protest. That just seems
Well,
over the top.
If you look at some of the hardest times where change was needed, the civil rights movement or 1930s Germany, the people that protested peacefully made nothing change,
That's
and
true.
change needed to happen.
That's
but
true.
I would also say, and I agree with what you're saying, but I would also say the pen is mightier than the sword.
I would
So
agree.
don't just stand with a sign.
Correct. Well said.
Speak your mind.
Get your message out.
Share your message with people who will listen and listen to them.
Yep.
Yeah. And have an open mind, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whatever we're protesting for or against, as much as we want to believe we're right, just have an open mind.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's a good
Alex,
place.
I appreciate you coming out
Yeah.
in
Nice
this
job, Alex.
cold weather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. You get a bottle of bourbon.
It's been great having you, and it's been great having all the listeners as well. Everybody
Awesome.
have a great week.
Cheers.